The wedding planner called just after 9. "Your husband canceled your invitation," she said, "but asked to keep the $40,000 deposit you paid." I stared at the glass wall that framed the Santa Fe Mountains and answered as evenly as I could. "Cancel the entire wedding," she gasped. "But ma'am, you are not the bride." "No," I said. "I am the owner." Silence pooled between us, the kind that follows a truth no one expects to hear. Her voice returned with careful professionalism, the kind that hides shaking hands. "We received conflicting instructions from your husband yesterday. He indicated you would no longer be attending, but that the financial arrangements should remain unchanged." I placed the phone on speaker and leaned back in my chair, the city moving in quiet ribbons 28 floors below. The room smelled faintly of cedar and fresh coffee. I kept my voice calm because calm is what built Caldera Hospitality Group from a leased food truck to a string of 5-star properties. "Could you clarify exactly which arrangements he referenced?" The planner cleared her throat. "Venue rental, catering, and guest accommodations, all prepaid by you, remain in force." He assured us the funds would stand as a generous gift. The word gift slid across my skin like ice. My husband had erased me with one hand and kept my wallet open with the other. I looked past my reflection to the blue desert sky and felt the shape of something harden in my chest. 3 weeks ago at dinner, Evan had spoken about love and limits, about student loans and a mortgage that made a celebration feel impossible. Nathan squeezed my knee under the table and said maybe Avery can make a few calls. I did more than that. I wrote the check. I told them to keep my name out of it so no one felt beholden. I believed anonymity was elegance. "Are you still there, Mrs. Calder?" "I am," I said. "Thank you for your honesty. Please hold any further changes until you hear from me." "Of course," she replied, relief and fear braided into one breath. When the call ended, the office was so quiet I could hear the soft tick of the wall clock. A message banner slid across my screen with a vendor's name I knew by heart. Another followed, then a third. "Conflicting instructions. Replacement contacts. Please confirm your absence." I folded my hands on the mahogany and understood. This was not a misunderstanding, it was a plan. In the quiet, I felt 15 years of marriage realign like plates beneath an earthquake, slow and unstoppable, revealing a fault line I had ignored because love is patient and ambition is quieter than vanity for years. 3 weeks before that phone call, the betrayal began in ways so ordinary that I did not recognize it for what it was. We were gathered in Nathan's parents' adobe-walled dining room, long wooden table crowded with cousins, casseroles, and too much cheap wine. His younger brother Evan, cheeks flushed with nerves, announced his engagement to Marissa. The room erupted with applause and clinking glasses. Yet beneath the joy lay something heavier, money or the lack of it. Evan cleared his throat, words tumbling out awkwardly. "We want a real wedding, but between Marissa's student loans and our mortgage, we can maybe manage 5,000 if we cut everything else to the bone." The family's chatter shifted, suddenly calculating. Ideas were thrown like lifelines: a backyard barbecue reception, plastic chairs from the community center, a discounted dress. Marissa smiled bravely, but her eyes carried the sharp sheen of humiliation. Nathan leaned back in his chair, slipping into his role as the sympathetic older brother. "Maybe Avery can help," he said, his tone half teasing, half expectant. "She knows people in that world." The table turned toward me, faces bright with assumption. I smiled politely, the kind of smile that shields more than it reveals, and said nothing. Because what they never seemed to grasp was that I didn't just know people. I was the people. For 15 years, I had built Caldera Hospitality from one small event space into a chain of luxury hotels, resorts, and service companies that stretched across New Mexico, Colorado, and Arizona. My competitors respected me, my employees trusted me, my clients praised me. But in this family, I was Nathan's wife, who helped with events. Later that night, while the others sipped coffee and debated table centerpieces that cost less than a week of groceries, Marissa pulled me aside in the kitchen. Her voice shook. Do you think Do you think you might know someone who'd give us a discount? Anything, really. We don't want charity. Just help. Her desperation pierced me more deeply than her words. I saw in her the same young woman I had been once, dreaming of beauty while staring down the blunt math of debt and duty. Without hesitation, I touched her hand. "You'll have the wedding you dreamed of," I whispered, "but it will be anonymous. I don't want you to feel beholden." That night, while Nathan watched late-night television in our living room, I wrote a check for $42,000. It was less than 2 days of profit for my company. I made 3 phone calls, to Sunfire Estate for the venue, to Golden Mesa Catering for the reception, to Sierra Vista Grand for the guest accommodations. Each one confirmed with respect, each one promised discretion. I believed it was the best gift I could give. A wedding free from financial chains, free from obligation, a gift without strings. I did not yet realize that gifts without strings can be turned into nooses by those who see generosity as weakness. The first call came the following Monday morning. "Mrs. Whitfield, we wanted to confirm changes Mr. Whitfield requested," said the coordinator from Sunfire Estate. Her tone was tentative, cautious, as if she already sensed trouble. "He told us you would not be attending the ceremony, but that all payments and services remain intact. Could you please verify?" I froze, pen hovering over a contract I had been reviewing. "Changes?" I asked, though the word felt foreign in my mouth. "Yes, ma'am. Guest list revisions, removal of your name from formal announcements, and a new primary contact for vendor coordination." I ended the call quickly, promising to circle back. But within an hour, Golden Mesa Catering reached out with the same confusion, then Sierra Vista Grand. Each voice carried the same uneasy mixture of professionalism and disbelief. Nathan, my husband, had called them directly, rewriting my role without my consent. The final confirmation arrived not by phone, but as a text message glowing on my screen. "Stop being dramatic. You're not coming to Evan's wedding. The money stays since you offered it as a gift. We'll discuss when you calm down." Calm down! The words burned hotter than any flame. 15 years of marriage reduced to a dismissal typed in seconds. He had not just cut me out. He had mocked the legitimacy of my outrage before I even voiced it. I stared at the message, my chest hollowing, and wondered how many times he had rehearsed that tone. It was the same one he used when I questioned late nights, when I raised concerns about his family's constant demands, when he wanted me silent. By afternoon, the betrayal spread wider. Diane, the planner from Evergreen Events, called with a voice so strained it nearly cracked. "Mrs. Whitfield, I feel obligated to tell you, your husband insisted that we remove you entirely from all wedding correspondence. He presented it as a mutual decision, but something about it felt off." "Mutual," I repeated, tasting the lie. "Yes. He said you agreed to remain a financial backer but not a participant because of emotional stress." Her voice faltered on the last words, shame leaking through. I thanked her, ended the call, and sat in silence. My hands trembled on the mahogany desk. My family had not just accepted my money while excluding me. They had painted me unstable, unfit to sit among them. The clock ticked in steady defiance of my unraveling thoughts. I looked at the contracts fanned across my desk, each signed with my name, each a monument to years of work, sacrifice, and vision. It was not a misunderstanding, it was a plan. And for the first time, I allowed myself to ask the question I had buried for years. What happens when the quiet woman they all underestimate stops being quiet? By evening, the anger that had threatened to shatter me hardened into focus. I poured a glass of Malbec, set it beside my laptop, and pulled out the thick black binder I kept locked in my desk. Inside were the acquisition records, subsidiary maps, and layered ownership structures that most people never bothered to understand. The red lines of control stretched like veins across pages of diagrams. Caldera Hospitality Group was not a single company. It was a network, a web woven over 15 years with patience and precision. Sunfire Estate, the venue Evan and Marissa had chosen for its panoramic desert views, sat under Desert Bloom Properties, which I had purchased 2 years earlier through bankruptcy proceedings. Golden Mesa Catering operated as a subsidiary of Mesa Food Services, which Caldera had absorbed during an acquisition spree in Albuquerque. Sierra Vista Grand, the hotel where all out-of-town guests had reserved rooms, was part of the Crown Ridge Collection, my flagship luxury portfolio. Even Evergreen Events, the wedding planner they thought they'd chosen independently, answered to my holding company after a quiet merger last spring. Every contract, every service, every thread of this wedding was tied back to me. I pushed back from my desk and let the reality flood me. They had plotted to erase me while building their dream celebration entirely on my foundation. Nathan and his family had spoken for years of my little projects, their voices dripping with condescension. Yet those projects had become the very infrastructure supporting every glass of champagne, every slice of cake, every luxury guest suite they expected to enjoy. They thought I was invisible. They thought I was expendable. But they had no idea that I held every card. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Nathan. Vendors are confused because you're interfering. Let them do their jobs. Evan doesn't need your drama. I almost laughed. Drama. That word had been used to silence me since the early years of our marriage. But this was not drama. This was theft, betrayal, and insult layered together with the precision of an architect drawing blueprints for my humiliation. I closed the binder, slid it across the desk, and opened a new document. Title: Directive, Henderson Wedding. The words I typed were cold, exact, and absolute. All contracts are to be terminated immediately, all reservations canceled, all services withdrawn. Effective at once. The silence in my office deepened until I could hear the hum of the city below, like a current of energy waiting for release. I lifted my glass, the dark wine catching the glow of the desk lamp, and whispered to the empty room. Let them learn what happens when they mistake generosity for weakness. The decision was made. Tomorrow, the first domino would fall. The next morning, I arrived at headquarters before sunrise. The glass tower glowed pink with the first light over Santa Fe, a fitting backdrop for what I was about to do. My assistant, Rosa, looked up in surprise as I strode through the lobby. Early start, Mrs. Whitfield? She asked. Today will be busy, I replied, handing her the binder marked Directive, Henderson Wedding. Begin sending these cancellations, one by one, effective immediately. Her eyebrows shot up, but she didn't question. Rosa had seen enough to know that my orders were never impulsive. The first call went to Evergreen Events. As of this morning, Caldera Hospitality withdraws all services for the Whitfield Hughes wedding, Rosa read from the directive. The planner stammered, tried to argue, but contracts don't bend to please. One down. Golden Mesa Catering followed. Their manager sounded confused. But Mr. Whitfield insisted everything was confirmed just yesterday. Mr. Whitfield has no contractual authority, I said flatly, taking the phone myself. You answer to me. Cancel it. Send confirmation in writing. The silence on the other end was thick before he replied. Understood, Mrs. Whitfield. 2 down. By noon, the dominoes had fallen. Sierra Vista Grand released 60 rooms, sending automated emails to bewildered guests. Sunfire Estates' event calendar, once blocked out in bold letters, was suddenly open. Florists, photographers, musicians, all contracts voided under clauses my lawyers had written years ago. I leaned back in my chair as Rosa entered with a stack of signed cancellations. It's done, she said softly. Every vendor is out. For a moment, the weight of it all pressed against my chest. 15 years of marriage had ended not with shouting, but with typed directives and electronic signatures. My heart hurt, but the clarity felt like oxygen. The first frantic call came before long. Teresa, my sister-in-law, her voice jagged with panic. Avery, something terrible happened. The venue just called. They said the wedding is off. And the hotel, every reservation was canceled. What's going on? I swiveled my chair toward the window, watching sunlight spill across the mountains. That sounds very unfortunate, I said calmly. Have you tried contacting alternatives? Her voice broke. I've been calling for hours. Every decent venue is booked solid. The caterers won't take us. Even hotels in Albuquerque said no. It's like the entire industry shut its doors. I let her words hang, savoring the irony. She still didn't realize I was the industry. When the call ended, I placed my phone on the desk and exhaled slowly. The first domino had indeed fallen, and the rest would tumble just as easily. By the next day, the phones would not stop ringing. Rosa stacked message slips on my desk, each one bearing the same names: Evan, Marissa, Nathan, and his mother. I ignored most of them, choosing instead to sip my coffee and review acquisition reports. My silence was louder than their shouting. At noon, Evan finally reached me directly. His voice tried for calm, but it cracked under pressure. Avery, I just need to understand. Did you have anything to do with this? Every vendor pulled out on the same day. The hotel says no rooms. The caterer claims that they were told to stop. This isn't normal. It does sound unusual, I said smoothly, but sometimes choices carry consequences. Consequences? His voice sharpened. This is my wedding, not a business negotiation. Before I could answer, another line beeped. Nathan. I pressed the button. His words came out like a whip. You've gone too far. Do you know what you've done? Evan is in a panic. Marissa hasn't stopped crying, and Mom says vendors are calling non-stop. You've turned this into a circus. I held the phone steady, refusing to let his anger pierce me. No, Nathan. You turned it into a circus when you erased me from the guest list and kept my money. He scoffed, the sound dripping with contempt. There it is. The drama. This is exactly why we didn't want you at the wedding. Everything becomes about your feelings. You always need to be the center of attention. I bit back a bitter laugh. Center of attention? I funded the wedding and asked for anonymity. You turned my silence into your stage. On the other end, he exploded. Stop twisting this. You gave that money as a gift. Gifts don't come with conditions. You can't punish the whole family because your ego got bruised. The accusation hung heavy, each word dipped in venom. Drama, ego, hysteria. He weaponized the language of dismissal, just as he had for years. Punish? I repeated softly. I'm not punishing, I'm correcting. You stole my generosity and turned it into humiliation. That has consequences. For a moment, only silence. Then Nathan's mother's voice cut in, clearly on speaker beside him. Avery, dear, families are complicated. Maybe it's best to let this go for Evan's sake. Don't ruin his day over misunderstandings. My hand trembled, but my voice did not. This was no misunderstanding. It was a decision. And now, I've made mine. I ended the call before they could reply. My heart pounded, but a strange calm spread through me. They thought calling me unstable would break me. Instead, it crystallized my resolve. They wanted me invisible. They were about to see me in full light. Monday morning, the Whitfield family filed into my headquarters as if summoned to a tribunal. The 28th floor conference room stretched wide, sunlight spilling across polished stone floors, and walls lined with awards. The desert horizon framed every window, stark and unflinching. I had chosen this room deliberately. Evan and Marissa entered first, their faces pale, brittle smiles plastered in place. Behind them came Nathan's parents, whispering to each other like schoolchildren awaiting discipline. Finally, Nathan strode in with forced confidence, though the twitch in his jaw betrayed him. He stopped short when he saw me seated at the head of the massive oak table, documents spread before me like evidence. Thank you for coming, I said, my voice even, every syllable sharpened by restraint. We need to address what has unfolded and what it means for this family. No one spoke. The silence was heavy, broken only by the faint hum of the air system. Evan cleared his throat, standing with unexpected steadiness. Avery, I owe you an apology. What we did was wrong. We should never have accepted your generosity while shutting you out. I let others make decisions I should have questioned. His words carried a weight that momentarily softened the room. I inclined my head. Apology noted, but words alone do not repair betrayal. This was not an accident. It was a coordinated erasure. Nathan slammed his palm on the table. For God's sake, it wasn't betrayal. We were trying to avoid drama. You make everything about yourself, Avery. Your success has gone to your head. We just wanted a peaceful wedding. My gaze did not waver. Peaceful weddings are not built on stolen money and lies. He glared at me, but I continued. Here are the terms if Evan and Marissa wish to proceed. First, $75,000 payable in advance to cover new arrangements and acknowledge the damage done. Second, formal written apologies from each of you, Nathan, his parents, and Marissa. Third, public acknowledgement at the reception of why the wedding nearly collapsed. These are not negotiable. Gas rippled. Marissa's hand clutched Evan's arm. Nathan's mother whispered, This is extortion. No, I corrected, my tone cold as steel. This is accountability. You tried to erase me while exploiting my work. Actions have consequences. Consider this an education in respect. Evan looked between me and his brother, anguish clear in his eyes. Finally, he nodded. We'll do it. I'll find the money, and I'll sign whatever is required. Marissa's face flushed, but she whispered, Yes. Nathan erupted. Are you insane? You're bowing to her arrogance. This isn't family, it's business. I leaned forward, my voice low but razor sharp. You're right. You made it business when you converted my love into a transaction and erased my name while cashing my check. Now business is all that remains. The silence that followed was absolute. Even Nathan, usually quick with insults, had no reply. The deal was sealed. In 48 hours, the signed apologies and payment reached my office. For the first time, the family realized the quiet woman they had dismissed now held every card, and she had just played them all. 4 weeks later, I stood at the edge of Sunfire Estate's courtyard as twilight painted the desert sky in copper and violet. The wedding had been rebuilt from ashes, smaller, quieter, yet far more beautiful than the extravagant spectacle they once imagined. Strings of lanterns swayed in the warm breeze, casting soft halos over guests seated at long wooden tables. Evan approached the microphone with Marissa's hand trembling in his. His voice, though strained, carried genuine weight. Before we exchange vows tonight, there's something I need to say. This wedding almost never happened, and the reason it exists at all is because of one person we wronged terribly. He turned toward me, eyes glassy. Avery, your generosity saved us, even when we did not deserve it. You gave without asking, and we repaid you with betrayal. For that, I am sorry. For that, we are all sorry. The courtyard went silent. Guests shifted, stunned by such raw confession. Then the applause began, hesitant at first, then rising until it filled the night air. Marissa's voice followed, steadier than I expected. I thought gratitude meant saying thank you in private. I learned that gratitude means standing before everyone and owning the truth. Avery, I humiliated you by my silence. Tonight, I want everyone here to know, we owe this day to you. The words pierced me deeper than any apology letter could. For once, acknowledgement rang louder than dismissal. Dinner unfolded with unexpected warmth. The guest list had shrunk to 40, every seat filled by someone who mattered. Gone were the shallow acquaintances and distant relatives. Instead, genuine laughter mingled with music, and I felt, strangely, at peace. But Nathan sat apart. He wore the mask of a man trying to appear unbothered, yet the tension in his jaw betrayed him. His family whispered around him, careful not to look my way. For the first time in 15 years, Nathan had no control, no script, no stage. He had lost all of it by underestimating me. The next morning, he stood in our kitchen with roses in his hands, wrinkled suit still smelling of champagne. Avery, we can fix this, he said, voice hoarse from pleading. 15 years means something. Don't throw us away. I poured my coffee and watched the steam curl upward. 15 years means I know exactly who you are when you think no one is watching, I said softly. Then I picked up my keys and walked toward the door, my packed bags waiting in the garage. 3 months later, Caldera Hospitality unveiled its new headquarters in Scottsdale. Industry leaders whispered about the woman who canceled an entire wedding with a phone call, who revealed herself not as a passive wife, but as the force holding an empire. Looking out over the desert sunset from my new office, I understood the lesson clearly. Silence may keep peace, but truth restores dignity. And when generosity is mistaken for weakness, strength must speak without apology. Because respect is not optional, it is earned, demanded, and, when necessary, taken back.